Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, Fearless Females. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to shout out to our sponsor, Fearless Financial Advisors. I'm so excited that they continue to sponsor this podcast. And thank you so much to all the listeners out there. I'm supposed to be asking if you would like or follow or comment on the podcast. Apparently that raises viewership. And I really do want these messages to get out to more people because I feel like the women that I interview just have such amazing, inspirational stories, and I really would like more people to listen to them. So whatever you can do to follow or like or comment, I would appreciate it. So today we're talking with Nelly Mubashi, and she is somebody I've known for years and years. And I will tell you flat out that she is the best operations person I have known in my career. And there are times during my journey when I would sit there very silently and say to myself, what would Nelly do in this situation? And then I'd try to do exactly that thing. And she probably didn't even know that she affected my life like this, but she really did. She made a difference to me. And the one thing that I found so interesting in this podcast episode is she said at one point that her employer told her that she couldn't take the Series 7 test, that they denied her funding and they weren't going to pay for it. And so she just went out and did it herself. And she got the books and she studied and she took the test. And then she started looking for a job inside the company. And that just kind of shows you the sort of gumption and grit that Nelly has. I don't know. I mean, I was taking this Series 7 at a time when nowadays they're like, oh yeah, please take the Series 7. Like, we want you to, we require it. We need more people who are licensed. But back when I was doing it, and even, further back when Nelly was doing it, like sometimes they wouldn't sponsor you for that test. And, a lot of people were not being helped along that path, and women in specific. And so I'm so proud of what she's done, the example that she sets for women in finance, and she's just an awesome lady, like all the way around. So I cannot wait for you to hear this episode. Let's get started with Nelly. We are in for a treat today. We are here with Nelly Mubashi, and she is the CEO of NWAM LLC, which goes by two different names, Northwest Asset Management and RIA Innovations. But I have known Nelly for years now, and I was just telling her before we got started that truly she is my inspiration. I think a lot of times, like people say, what would? Well, my idea is always, well, what would Nelly do? If I could come up with what you would do, then that is what I channel in my life. And I try and one day, if I could be as cool as you are, it would be amazing. So I am so excited that we get to hear from you today, Nelly. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Lorie. It's definitely a mutual feeling. I mean, I've known you for a while. I admire you. I actually took a look at your website and all the podcasts that you've done, and it's just inspiring. Quite a bit of work for sure, but it's just amazing the number of women, leaders, and inspiring stories that you've brought to your audience. And it's just amazing. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So I always start with the same question. I love reading. What is your favorite book?
Well, I couldn't pick, so I have two books. I couldn't pick between both of them. And one of them is really more business related. The other one is really more pleasure because I love reading. The first one is Start with Why by Simon Sinek. And I know I saw your website, you have a couple books from him, but this particular book that I'm talking about, Start with Why, has really inspired me through my whole career. It was published in 2009, I believe, but it really kind of takes you through the journey of understanding why you're doing things. And it gives examples of companies and big leaders like Steve Jobs, for example, the Wright brothers. But basically, the gist of it is that you have to understand why you're doing something in order for you to move on and make decisions and actually understand your whole world and what inspires you. And so I've taken really all the concepts that he talks about on understanding why and then how and then what, and I've applied that not just to my career as a co-owner CEO of the company, but also in my personal life. Why do I get up? Why do I go to the gym? Why do I need to do something? And it's just amazing, inspiring, and it kind of drives me towards, being better and understanding why I want to do something. Like, for example, if I am to launch a new service or a new product at the company, I have to go back to the why am I doing this? What is the foundation of the business and what is our objective? And does this new product or service or hiring this new person, does that connect and jive with the why of the company? And I find that by doing that, it's just an easier decision making process.
Mhm.
Same thing with my life. It's pretty amazing how you kind of go day in day out doing the same things, but people just do it automatically. Why am I going to the gym? Why do I have to do this? But it's just making your life be purposeful,
Mhm.
understanding what's your end goal, what your objective is. And the other book that I have is more for pleasure. Is the Fourth Wing. That's the one I just read a few weeks ago by Rebecca Jarros. And that's really more of a fantasy book. It's about
Uh-huh.
dragons and about a war school, and it just kind of takes you through this journey of this, tiny, short female who goes through all of these challenges because her mom forced her, and then she realizes that she's actually good at it and that she can actually overcome what everybody else can do, and it doesn't, her size and her experience doesn't hinder what, the outcome of what she wants to do and how she does it. So it's
Yeah.
it's been an awesome book for me to kind of go through, and it has, different chapters, and it has like, I think, three books right now. There's two more to come out that I'm pretty excited to read, but it's been an amazing experience just reading it.
I love that. Well, I'm a Simon Sinek devotee. I do love his ideas, and I'm not sure I found the why in going to the gym yet. But I do use it as an overarching for I love how you put that where you look at your business and you're like, does this new thing that we're doing, does it fit with our why? And if it doesn't, then we need to look at that before we bring
Move
that into
on.
fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
hmm
So, Nelly, tell me a little bit about your journey. Like, how did you get started? Like, where did you go? How did you get where you're at? And kind of what do you do today? Just tell me a little bit about that.
So my journey was a little bit unconventional. So I mean, obviously, I went to undergrad. I went to school in Asheville, North Carolina, at a small school, Warren Wilson College. Once I graduated, I moved to St. Louis to join my boyfriend at the time, husband now. And I started looking for jobs, and the only job available at that point were not great. So I actually started in credit card collections at US Bank. And it was, as you can imagine, not great. The experience was actually fine in terms of my coworkers and what I did day to day, but just talking to people about money, and this was not like a fun talk about money. It was really more like, hey, you haven't paid your bill. And it was not a pleasant experience, but I did it for about a year and a half, and then once my husband now graduated, he went to Washington University in St. Louis. He got a job at Microsoft, so we actually moved over to Seattle because of his Microsoft job, and I quit my U.S. Bank, credit card collection job because it was not really what I wanted to do. I moved here, looked for jobs. I knew that I wanted to be in the investment wealth management industry. I had actually done an internship back in college, and I knew that I wanted to kind of do something similar, but I didn't really know where to get started. I didn't really have any connections. I didn't have, a place to start. I didn't understand, what the entry points were, or who to talk to. So I saw this receptionist job at Piper Jeffrey, which is a regional or was a regional brokerage company. And I decided to apply for the position. And keep in mind that I had a BA in business administration and economics, but I was applying for a receptionist job.
Mhm.
But I wanted to do that because I knew I wanted to get into the industry, and that was at the time just my only way,
Mhm.
or at least that I thought that was my only way. So I applied. I got the position as a receptionist for Piper Jeffrey, and that was downtown Seattle, Fifth Avenue. And I started, but I knew that I did not want to just be a receptionist. So I actually went to my manager and I asked her to do the Series 7 exam so that I could become eventually an advisor.
Mhm.
And she said no, because as a receptionist, you're not really supposed to have any, you know, advisor certifications. It was a completely different path.
Mhm.
So I went and bought my own books and signed up for the online exams, the practice exams, and I studied for 3 months. And then I went back and I said, can I at least open the exam window, because at that point the Series 7 exam has to be sponsored by a
Mhm.
FINRA firm. So they finally agreed to open the window. I did the exam, I passed the exam, and then once I passed, I went around to different teams and asked if they were looking for a junior advisor, and most of them said no. There was one team that was actually in transition. They had one person leave, and I luckily talked, interviewed with them, and I got the position as a financial advisor associate, their junior advisor on the team. And that's how I got started in
Mhm.
the wealth management investment industry as a financial advisor associate at Piper Jeffrey. But a couple years later, Piper Jeffrey got purchased by UBS. And that was a whole different experience because the culture was different. We moved to a
Mhm.
different building. We had a different manager that UBS pretty much sent us, and the manager was really not great to me. I would probably count that as one of the not great experience that I've had in my career.
Mhm.
But we, as a team, we stuck around that branch for a couple years, and then we left. We formed our own RIA. So we started with 4 people, 3 advisors, one assistant. The assistant left after a few months, and then one of the advisors retired after a couple years.
Mhm.
And so it was just really my partner, Greg, and myself. And we decided to just grow the business so that we could have nicer things like better software, pricing power, you name it. And so we started hiring advisors under the Northwest Asset Management umbrella,
Mhm.
which is for in-house advisors. So we started hiring advisors. We got this pretty popular local advisor who attracted other popular advisors, and so we kind of got started that way. And then in 2011, because we started our RIA back in 2008, in the
Mhm.
middle of the financial crisis,
Oh, yeah.
that's when we spun off from UBS. But fast forward from 2008 when we started to 2011, we were presented with an opportunity to provide services to other RIAs. So not employees or not advisors under us, but other companies that did pretty much the exact same thing as we did. And they were
Mhm.
looking for asset management services and back office services. And we said, why not? We're already doing this for advisors. Why can't we just do it for a company now? And so we didn't really have a branding for that at the time. We just did it. So we did the asset management, we did the back office and paperwork. We were much, much smaller back then, and then that side of the business just grew, and in 2015 we decided to brand it RA Innovations, because at
Mhm.
that point we had quite a few advisors or companies under that umbrella, and we had to make a distinction between the in-house advisors for Northwest Asset Management and the outside RA firms that hired us for services, which was RA Innovations. And since then, the company, has been growing. I would probably say the last 5 years has seen an exponential growth. But it's been a journey for sure.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And I know that we were under Northwest Asset Management for a while, and then RIA Innovation. So I know that your theory is like on that RIA Innovation side, you're helping those advisors if they want to do their own thing. That's great. You help them to be RIAs themselves, but you give them a platform and a technology that they can go ahead and it's good. Like, I like what you guys do.
Thank you. That's exactly right. And that was the purpose. I mean, just making it easier for advisors to plug in and do their work, because there's a lot of like big companies out there that require you to pay them a lot of money for
Mhm.
things that don't cost that much money. So a lot of that is really overhead or profit that they're trying to charge you for, and we were trying to build something that advisors can actually afford, but also feel respected and feel like they're being heard and being serviced the proper way.
Mhm. Mhm. So it's so interesting, though. You started out with two people, Nelly, and the company is huge now. I know. How many advisors do you have now?
105 between
Oh my
both sides.
goodness gracious. That is a story in and of itself. Like, how did you just keep it? The pluck and courage of like going to a team and just saying, "Hey, I want to be an advisor. Can I join your team?" And being told no, and then
That's scary.
go to another team. Yeah. So like, I can see where you just, as you iterated into each new successive phase of your journey in your career, I can see that pluckiness being like, well, I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like that's been kind of the theme for most of my career. Just figure it out, just do it. And also mean there is no such thing as an expert from the start. I mean, you can't graduate college and know everything. You can't start a new position and know everything. I mean, every single person is expected to learn and understand and be open to new ideas, and just have grit, just keep going at it.
Hmm. Hmm. I love that. So, if you can look back, is there an investment you made in yourself that you're like, oh my goodness, if I hadn't done that, I just don't think I'd be where I'm at today?
Definitely paying for my own book, that Series 7 book. If I did not do that, and if I had listened to that no, I wouldn't have started in this industry. So I wouldn't be really here, because I would still be on that operation, administrative kind of path, and I don't know where I would have ended up. But I didn't let them say no. I studied, bought things on my own, and decided that I knew what I wanted to do, and I was not going to stick to what they wanted to do at the time, for me at the time, and just invested on my own and studied on my own and passed that
Well,
exam.
there probably wasn't a whole lot of women advisors at that point
Oh
either.
no. Oh no. 'Cause even in the branch at Piper Jeffrey, I think we had over 80 advisors at that branch, and I can comfortably say that about 10% were women.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Everybody else
that,
was an assistant.
yeah. So that, because I know at the beginning of my career, and I started out after you guys had already come in, and there were women advisors in the room. Not many, but there were,
Yes.
some. And I think that sense of like, well, the girls do the admin, they do the operations, and the guys do the advisor side of things
Exactly.
was pretty much the way it went. So asking, hey, I want to be an advisor, that, I mean, just to put it in context, that wasn't something that girls did at that point.
I was told that, yes. I didn't listen.
I love it. I love
Kind
it.
of stubborn.
What gave you the courage not to listen? Like, you're young, you're just out of school, and you're surrounded by male advisors who are telling you this isn't your place. How did you just like, how'd you get so brave?
Well, I kind of have a tough skin, and it's maybe from my upbringing. I mean, so I didn't say the story, but I was actually not born in the U.S.
Mhm.
Probably by my accent, you can tell. I was born in Central America, Nicaragua, in 1979. In 1979 is when the war actually kicked off in my country. So it's about 10 years of war. So my first 10 years of life was, seeing I guess planes that have bombs, and then trenches where people would run to, and AK-47s hanging around everywhere, and people in uniforms and things like that. So that's how I grew up. And after the 10 years of war, it was really more of 10 years of not much resources. So there was
Mhm.
scarcity of food, services, resources, healthcare, the entire thing. And so that was kind of my life when I grew up, and it wasn't an easy one.
Mhm.
And kind of that gave me a thick skin to not take stuff from people.
I love it. So, like after going through war and scarcity, like someone telling you, no, you're not a financial advisor doesn't even hit the surface. It
Not even
just,
close. Not even close, no.
so tell me, Nelly, have you ever gotten any really bad advice? Well, it sounds like you definitely did. Like they told you no, but can you think of a is that the time, or can you think of a time that you were given bad advice and did you take it? Did you not take it?
Good question. Yes, I've gotten really bad advice a lot of times. But the one that I did take was when someone told me, when I was already a manager, and someone approached me and they said, you shouldn't try to be friends with your staff, because if you have negative feedback, or if you have to fire them, then it's going to hurt, and it's not going to go well. And I actually took that and as a good advice, and I said, okay, well, that makes sense, because if I'm managing people and I have to tell them that they're not doing something right, it's not gonna go well if I'm pretty friendly or BFF
Mhm.
with them. That's the way that I started when I was a manager. I didn't really like it. It felt pretty isolating. I saw other companies, for example, that had a more of a close knit relationship with their employees, and I didn't see anything wrong with that. But I kept going. I mean, I took the advice, and I kept at arm's length from a lot of the staff and employees, because I just thought that if I have to fire them, it's going to be bad. And I did that for quite a few years, and it wasn't the culture that I wanted to live in.
Mhm.
And so I changed that. I mean, eventually I realized, this is kind of silly. And I don't have to be, BFF with people, but friendly, talk about their family, remember their kids' names, remember their dog name, send them flowers if their dog passed away or something.
Yeah.
Just things like that. I think that that's the culture and company that I want to work at. And I kind of regret having listened to that before, because it was just not right.
It feels a little bit. It just feels wrong, and it's a little bit lonely, huh?
It is. It really is. It was, because I
Yeah.
mean, I just kind of separated myself and just did the work, because I had to do the work and didn't really interact much with people.
So how did that change though? Because the reason you were doing it was you didn't want to have to fire people. I'm assuming you had to fire people that you were I had a more personal relationship with. Did it work out?
Well, good question. And well, I did hire an HR person who has more policy and procedures, and so it's easier, because if you have, you know, policy and procedures towards something, then you know that if someone is not performing well, you start with maybe a verbal warning, and then you go with a written warning. You talk to them, you put them on a performance improvement plan, a PIP.
Mhm.
And if all of that fails, then it's pretty clear that that person is not a good fit. And
Mhm.
so I think, if since we now have that, it's easier if someone is not performing to let them go. And
Mhm.
it's not my fault, it's not my opinion. It's you have all this, I guess, history that shows why it's happening. We didn't have that before because we were much smaller. So it was really just me giving feedback to that person.
Mhm.
And if it didn't work out, then letting them go. So I would probably say, even if you're small, start with policy and procedures that are pretty clear,
Mhm.
so that there is no confusion or opinions involved.
Mhm.
It's really fact. Here is this, here's that, here's what you did. We try to help, and it didn't improve.
I like that idea. So, like, basically, you put the distance in the policies, procedures, HR sort of thing, and put the warmth and connection in the people relationship part of things.
That's correct. And I can still, talk about their family and talk about their their hobbies and things like that without it mixing with the HR portion, which is completely separate now.
Yeah, I like that idea. And again, I like Simon Sinek, and he talks a lot about treating employees like human beings. They have lives.
Yes,
They're
of course.
important.
They really do. And they're nice people. And I mean, you hired them for a reason because you likely have the same values and the same, probably hobbies and things like that. They're, whatever. It's they're people that need to have a connection. And I think that connection was missing before.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. What about a situation that if you could go back and kind of have a redo, like I always say that if I went back and I knew the same thing, I'd do it the same way. But what if you had all the knowledge that you had today and you could go back and redo something? Is there a situation that you're like, oh yeah, I'd do that?
Yes, I let, I guess, people opinion and comments influence on how I acted. And,
Hmm.
and I'll give you an example because this actually I don't know if it's a funny story, but it happened in college. You know, uh, a friend of mine had posted something online, and I responded with a comment saying, "Ha ha ha." But in Spanish, you spell "ha ha ha" with a J, so you do J instead of HA. And that person came back and said, "What do you mean?" And I was confused. I'm like, "Ha ha ha!" And then I go and look it up, and I realized that Spanish and English, that expression is spelled differently. And I'm like, "Oh," and that kind of embarrassed me a little bit, and I stopped posting comments because of that. Because I'm like, okay, well, maybe kind of thinking maybe in Spanish and not in English, and I'm gonna post something and people are gonna laugh or something, and I internalized that, and I shouldn't have because I mean, I speak two different languages and we have a different culture, so that really shouldn't have influenced what I did from that point
Hmm.
forward, but it did. And my kids actually make fun of me now because they're like ja ja ja, and I'm like, it's not ja ja ja, it's ha ha ha. But I understand now that it looks different and it sounds different. Between Spanish and English. And it was just
Yeah.
hilarious that, it was just a small thing, but it made me realize that I did that before, like where I let people, small comments like that influence what I did. So I stopped doing that. And I just try to be authentic. I try to be myself. And, if there's a difference between how you say something or how I say something, that's fine because we're two different people.
Hmm. Yeah, I know that's hard for me too, and I know that I've kind of grown into, like, I was terrified when I started in this industry to wear any sort of colors because
Yes,
you
that.
like wear black and white and you wear your suit jacket and you
Mhm.
wear your high heels, even if you're trekking across multiple conferences and your feet are hurting like heck, like I
Yes.
just didn't show up who I really do wear pink and flat shoes,
There you
like,
go. And it's
yeah,
okay. I wear jeans now, or not jeans, but sneakers.
yeah.
I still put on a suit, a pantsuit, but now I wear like either white or black sneakers. I hate high heels, and I don't want to do that just to appease or make someone think that I fit in.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a really hard place to get to. I
It
don't
is.
know
It is.
if you can do it when you're younger and just starting out, like, you want to fit in. I don't know. Thoughts about that?
It's. I've actually seen more and more younger people do that, which is pretty impressive because my younger self would not have done that or had the courage to do that. I do see, I think, so I'm Gen X. So millennials and Gen Z, I think, are a lot more open to being authentic themselves.
Mhm,
And I see that on the staff that we hire, on the younger advisors that we have. They're a lot more laid back about
mhm.
how they dress and how they talk. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, me too. Maybe we'll just watch their example
There
and
you go.
and And keep being brave at showing up authentically, wearing our colors or
For sure.
posting our comments.
For sure.
If you could go back and talk to yourself when you were just at the start of your journey, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, is there
Mhm.
any advice you'd tell you at that age?
Yes, I would definitely tell myself to have more fun, and then also to prioritize friends, and I'll tell you why. So to have fun, because I really didn't have any fun in college. I mean, I did a lot of studying, and I did internships, and I did work study, because my college was it required you to work 20 hours a week at least. And so I was always busy, and I didn't invest in friendship, and that was a mistake for sure. So I would tell myself to maybe join a sorority, to attend, I guess, games at the school, to the sport events, things like that, and to just relax. I mean, you can still study, you can still do some work, but find some time to actually bring in that other aspect, because it's pretty important to make friends, and it's pretty important to cultivate those relationships, because those are the ones that are going to connect you in later life. And
Mhm.
I did some of that, but not a lot. And so my friends are very few from college, and I wish that I would have spent and invested more time doing that.
Yeah, I like that idea. I'm a little bit introverted myself, and I do notice that I'm like, you always want those friendships,
Yes,
but it's important to remember to have fun while you're along the journey too, to develop those relationships and have fun. Yeah, I think that's important.
I
I
agree.
maybe need to tell my 18-year-old though, maybe not too much fun. Like,
Not too much fun, of course not. But go to games, join a team, do something. Just build that build that network.
I like that. What scared you the most when you started on your career? And does it still scare you?
I would probably say it scares me less now, but when I started, I was pretty self-conscious about myself. I'm short, I'm 5'3", I have an accent, I'm brown, minority, Latin. So there were all these things that were not, you don't see a lot of that, or even much of that in the industry. And so I was always self-conscious about myself, about what I said and how I talked. And I would probably say it scares me less now, or I maybe care less about it, because I have more confidence, I have the experience, I have the backing of what I've done and the success that I've had. And so I stop caring, basically, if I fit in or not fit in, if I was too short, or I'm brown, or if I have an accent or whatever. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It what matters is what you did, how you did it. You know, did you do all of that? I guess for success. And I feel like things, I guess, that I was scared of when I was younger, were all things that came as a result of insecurities. And I mean, people have insecurities even when they're older. I think I still do, but I think a lot of that went away from all the work that I put in through the years, and the success that I've had, and just existing.
Yeah. That's a really interesting idea because yeah, I still have insecurities, but I am more confident in what I do,
Hmm.
you know? And so does that just come, you think, with like just being, trying a situation, being fearless, trying it a little bit, seeing if it works, and as you gain those skills, you just get more and more able to show up, or is am I missing something?
The thing that changed my point of view, and for me to stop caring about all of that, was that I saw that other people were also insecure. I mean, these, I guess, males, white males, and that have been in the industry for a while, that are, some of them are successful, some of them are not. They also have the exact same insecurities. I mean, I've talked to quite a few advisors. I interview pretty much every single person, whether they're coming under Northwest Asset Management or RI Innovation, and come in for services because I want to make sure that they fit in within our culture.
Mhm.
But by in doing that, I understood, or I saw that every single advisor is different. Every single person is different, and to be frank, I mean, what I would observe is even though maybe someone would have all this confidence, they didn't really know what they were doing. They needed help, and I knew what I was doing, and I knew exactly how to help them, and that just gave me the confidence to understand that even if you look like you have everything put together, and you look the part, and you feel that you have achieved everything at the top, you may still not know what you're doing. And I saw that when I was talking to advisors, and I understood that there was a lot of education that needed to happen there because maybe their breadth of experience only allowed them to see things one way, where there was all this other world that they were diving into by being maybe their own company, their own RIA, or their own independent advisor that they were scared about. I mean, a lot of advisors come in very stressed out
Mhm.
because they are leaving their prior employer. They're scared that they're going to get sued by the employer, that their clients are not going to come. They're very stressed. And us kind of like calming them down and just emphasizing that we've done this before, that we have experience, that it's going to be okay. It just made me see that it's okay to be insecure. It's okay to not know everything because there's resources out there that can make it better. But it also gave me the confidence to see that even if someone seems like it's put together and they have everything, that may not be the case. And it made it okay for me to also not be confident and have insecurities.
Oh, I really like the way you put that. And that is, it's true. If you start looking around and you start asking, like, half of us don't know what we're doing either, right? Like we're
No,
just hoping life works out, and we're doing our best, and we're working hard, and like I have all the credentials behind my name, but I still worry, are they going to like me? Is someone going to invite me to sit with them at the lunch table? Like that never goes away,
but
right?
they're thinking the same thing. They're thinking the exact same thing. So it's okay to
Yeah.
still think like that because we're humans at the end of the day. But everybody else is the exact same. I mean, they're scared to approach people they don't know, and they're scared to put themselves out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do it. Be fearless. It works out for you. You find those connections that you were talking about, and you find the people that really add the inspiration to your life.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you face any unique challenges because you were a woman?
I do, and I still do. I did, and I still do.
Mhm.
Because the one thing, or the first impression from advisors, is always like, oh, you're in operations, or you only understand operations. You don't understand what I'm talking about, which means that they haven't looked at my resume and they don't understand that I'm an advisor, or I was an advisor, and I understand where they're coming from. But I get that a lot, where people underestimate me because they
Mhm.
immediately put me in a category of, you're an assistant, or operations, or support. You're supporting someone, you're here for someone. And it's kind of funny because when you start talking to people and they find that, no, I'm not here for anyone. I'm actually co-owner, CEO of a company, and I'm representing my company. The whole conversation changes, but that's their first impression.
Mhm.
It's always been like that, and it's still like that. I was at a conference last year in Q4 in November, and out of 40 attendees, they were all head of companies. They call it TAMPs, turnkey asset management programs, and somehow we kind of fall into that category for some of the products that we have. But it was a TAMP conference, and there were 40 attendees, 40 head of companies, big companies. I was the only women CEO and co-owner of a company there out of all those 40 people. And one of the people who organized the event was for this major custodian. The lady came and said, you're the only woman CEO here out of all the 40 people that we have. And everybody else, like the other women that you see, that person is support. This is an assistant. This one is helping organize the event. But I was the only women CEO advisor in that whole group. So it's always been a challenge. You get underestimated, and you just kind of take it and move on. I mean, it doesn't really matter what they think. It's really what you do. You just have to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ran into a similar situation several years ago where I sat down at a table at a luncheon at some sort of symposium or presentation or something like that. And the guys at the table, the advisors kind of looked at me and looked away. And I must have looked like I was a secretary for somebody. And my colleague came in and sat down next to me, and they reached over me and like shook his hand and introduced themselves. And I am like, it really did change the way I stood up and reached out and shook their hands. And I'm like, hi, I'm an advisor. So I do get that. You get that. I'm
All the
not,
time. Yes.
I'm usually not the only woman in the room. So that has got to be a unique experience.
It definitely was, but I mean, I've gotten used to it because it happens more often than not. I mean, I attended a master class last year as well, earlier last year, and out of like 50 people, five were women.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's always been like that. I mean, I think the more and more, or the smaller the group, the smaller the women representation in that group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about Nelly? What is the thing you are the most proud of?
Definitely building and growing this company. I was actually looking at our statistics, and I made a change back in 2020 where I was an advisor, but I was also managing the company. And I just said, I can't do both because you can't really be good at everything, but you can be good at something. So I was spending my time, talking to clients on the advisory side and rebalancing and trading and doing financial planning, but I was also doing the company management, hiring people, and trying to build a company, and it was just really really hard to do both. And so I said, I'm really good at the corporate side, managing, growing, setting up policy procedures, reaching out to connections, things like that. And I really like working with clients, and I have been a lot of them had actually I've been working with them since 2004, which is when I started as an FAA under
Mhm.
Piper Jaffray. And it was kind of hard to let them go, but I just had to pick what I was really good at and spend all my time on that. And when I did that back in 2020, so now 5 years of history, our company pretty much more than doubled. So we had about 4.1 billion between Northwest and RA Innovations back in 2020. We're at 9.2 billion right now. And
Wow.
that has really, I mean, it's been an explosion between hiring, doubling our staff numbers, tripling our advisor numbers, and then just having a bigger company. So it's been quite an experience just going through all the growth and the pains that this growth brings, but it's definitely something I'm proud of because I think if I didn't make that decision of spending all my time on this, it wouldn't have happened.
Mhm. I agree, and I think that's really important to look at is like I know I recently had a situation where I had to decide which way to go, and it's harder than you think.
It is.
Like because you are good at it and you loved your clients and you wanted to do it. It wasn't that you didn't want to do both. You did want to
Yes.
do both and you were good at both. Like
Hmm.
it's hard to make that decision and so necessary for your growth.
It really is. And he also gave me more time to spend with my kids because even though now, I had a single focus for my career, it also freed up my time to, go to games and spend more time and give family time to my kids.
I love that for you. That's
Yeah,
another good reason that we need to look at we we can't do everything, and even if we can, maybe we
we
shouldn't,
shouldn't.
right?
We really shouldn't. No, because then you're stressing out about a lot of things and not concentrating on a single thing. So
Yeah. So, any advice for a young lady who's just starting down the path that you're already so successful at that you'd share?
I do. I would probably say, be your own cheerleader. That's what I would summarize it. And it was actually funny because I feel like I was, but I wasn't vocal about it. So put in all the work. I was getting all my certifications, and I thought that by doing that, it would just naturally happen. And I was actually at a Women in Wealth conference last week, Friday, and one of the panelists had a similar talk where she was talking about her regrets. And she said that she regretted not being vocal about what she wanted because she had gotten certifications, she had worked her butt off to get a promotion, and she didn't get it. And when she went back to her boss and said, why didn't I get the promotion? What kind of feedback can you give me? Well, the boss said, well, you didn't ask. And she was just taken aback because she thought that it was pretty obvious that she was doing all of this so she can get a promotion. But the boss simply said, you didn't ask. So be your own cheerleader. Ask. Ask for a raise, ask for a promotion. Just make sure that you have your pom poms out for yourself, and make sure that your boss and whoever works with you know exactly what you want and what you're working towards. Because if you don't vocalize it, nobody's a mind reader. And in this case, I mean, yes, it would have been obvious to me as a boss, but it's not obvious for everybody. So you have to ask.
I love that. I do. Because a lot of times we do the hard things, and we're quiet about it. We're
Yes.
quiet about the fact that we're doing. I can't tell you how many women I have interviewed who they're like, "Oh, I don't do anything cool." You don't want to interview me. I don't do anything cool. And you get them on and you find out all these amazing things that they're doing. They're not cheerleading. They don't
They're
have
not
their pom
cheerleading
poms out.
themselves. No, you
Yeah.
have to do that. You really have to. I mean, if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. So, well, thank you so much, Nelly. I really appreciated our conversation. I really learned a
Likewise.
lot. And if I have a young lady who's listening to this who wants to connect with you and ask questions or get some advice, how does she do that?
So the easiest way first is a LinkedIn connection, and just mention your podcast. And then she can send me, or he can send me, an email directly to my work email, which is nelly.mubashi@nwasset.com. You can find it on the website too by just looking up my name.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lorie. Appreciate it. Thank you.